Remember 40-man raiding? I do. It fucking sucked! It's hard to imagine that a raid of so many people could ever be a bad thing, but oh, it was awful! If I had to compare it to anything, it'd be like getting a group of 2-year-olds at a birthday party to do Gangnam Style in unison, or solo queuing for League of Legends.
I'm all out of love, so lost without you.
League of...
First, break blaspheming jaw. Secondly, deafen noob king.
What are you doing? Oh, one sec.
Thirdly, take opportunity.
Number 5. Ask yourself this question. Why do people want smaller raids? Why do people want raid content for less than 10? It's because en masse, people, not just gamers, are incapable of organising literally anything. All these clips are taken from one thread, by the way, with the community trying to understand flexible raiding. 14 pages in, they still don't realise that it's winged. My god. This is a major issue. When any game promotes some personal gain, be it gear, a spot on the damage meter, or even just a raid spot, everything team-based goes out of the window. Let me demonstrate a BG. I swear to God, this is the first and only BG I did for this clip. Unbelievable. A BG is the destruction of organised raiding on speed. It happens within seconds. Warsong Gulch. June 2005. June 2005 this shit was introduced, and it still baffles people that the aim of the game is to get the fucking flag. Alright men, listen up. Our mission is simple. We move as a team to the far ridge, obtain the flag and bring it back here. Stay together at all times, defend the flag runner, and no one be a hero. Hey, I said don't be a hero, come back. Oh, get out of the middle, it's pointless to be there. Kill their flag carrier, get out of the fucking middle. What are you doing, soldier? We're in the middle of a war here, it's no time to get snacks. No, don't let your team die to get an achieve. What the hell is wrong with you? In some cases, people will even leave a failed BG or a wipe and then post the damage meter. Even after the good people died from aggro, and then they boast of how amazing their contribution into the waste of time was. In their minds, that loss was a victory. You might beg, you might plead with people to do the simplest of tasks. 40-man raiding was a harsh lesson in frustration taken to the maximum. Boss mechanics were so trivial back then. Very comparable to the LFRs of today, but at least double the amount of slackers. And then call them your guild. Yeah, let that flow through you. Take an LFR group, then add another group of LFR players, then you call them your guild. Sweet Jesus. Headaches, anger, rage. Some of the best rages of all time came from 40 for this very reason. More people equals more mental instability. Everyone hopes and prays for the perfect guild where no one is bad. Everyone performs well, and bosses will fall like dominoes and shower loot from the skies. Little lesson. A lot of gamers suck. No guild in the world has ever formed the perfect raid. Sometimes you get lucky and have a golden run, but it burns out quicker than your lust for Lohan, and you're back to the same decent players with an ever-increasing downward spiral into despair, as that boss you were once farming is now more intricate than Lament configuration, with consequences almost as dire. Number 4. Control is a hard thing when your groups get too large, that's the sit. So people eventually slip through the cracks. People always up and leave. It's a natural course, but with more accessible raids and gear, it's not such a big deal to find at the very least a suitably prepared replacement. But the era of 40-man, not so much. The linear raid path meant that in order to be geared for one level of raiding, you had to have collected swag from at least the previous tier. Raiding AQ, you need some Blackwing Lair gear. Raiding MC, you need the blues. You get the idea. The hatred for the bigger guilds was immense. It was always looked on as stealing players. stealing players. You can't steal a person. Come on now. Players chose to leave. In every case, it was the player who left your guild and then accepted to join somewhere else. You couldn't even blame the bigger guilds for recruiting from your guild. Where else were they supposed to recruit from, huh? This was the raiding system. They needed people who could join their raids immediately. I mean, whoever's ever said, oh, I don't want to raid Axe tonight. Nah, I don't want to raid AQ4. Let's go raid Magmadar. Yeah, let's go raid Magmadar. For that guy. For that guy I've never met before. Yeah, let's do that. The people this really hurt, though, was the officers, guild leaders, and anyone who had some sort of personal connection to the guild. They would become emotionally upset, demotivated at the constant replacing, gearing, replacing again. The gearing process, all the while, the guild's overall progression could slow to a complete crawl. When you have so many players and bottom-feeding standards, this is hell! Number 3. This was the number one reason I love 40-man. But it's also one of the worst. I might have made some offhand comment about the quiet people who were a little shady, but for real, fuck those guys. Getting people to even log voice comms was an enormous chore. Why? Why wouldn't you want to join the experience with your fellow team? I honestly can never understand why it was so freaking impossible to get people on voice comms. Really, the best excuse I ever heard, I have no mic. What the fuck does that have to do with being able to listen? It's the most absurd shit I have ever had to listen to as a raid leader. I would spend desperate minutes of my life asking, pleading with people to do things, only to discover they weren't even on voice comms. Then the ultimate sick burn. You would type in the friggin' raid chat and they'd be all like, yo, what's up? Number 2. This is almost the worst, but not quite. But having large-scale raiding means Blizz has to account for dumb fucks. It would be misguided to think that many guilds can come up with a large roster that doesn't contain more than a couple of players who would get lost trying to find the Nexus. So it's actually their responsibility to ensure that bosses are killable. So they have to make them super easy. There should be a noticeable graph of raid size compared to ease of boss. I'm positive it's linear. It kind of grinds my balls that people look at Nax and mention the word difficulty in the same sentence. Have you ever really looked at the Nax boss mechanics? I mean, really looked? They're completely trivial. And not that modified to the popular and ever criticised 25-man remake. The difficulty curve came in the form of getting 40 people together and coping with events which by the time Wrath of the Lich King rolled around was now a 5-man level mechanic. Thaddeus is the best example. Even in 25 or even 10, we had to have people standing outside of the raid because they couldn't possibly cope with the mechanics, or they played on such a potato computer that the encounter itself was beyond their ability. So when it comes to 40-man and such simple ideas as move left or move right, it's a complete fucking nightmare. Number 1. My fucking god. How can people behave this way? Just look at Black Friday with people clawing and climbing and killing each other just to get that bargain. And then you wonder, how can 40-man raiding be any different? But in comparison to the smaller raids, it was so much worse. Remember those communities I spoke about in the Why It's Good video? Well, those communities would literally tear apart any other part of the guild if they felt it would benefit them. And if that didn't work, they would simply rip apart their own community. Teamwork doesn't mean a whole lot to people in video games, as proven earlier, so asking so many to remain even remotely civil is hilarious by definition. The extended problem with having so many is the amount of friends that get made. What? Friends is a bad thing now? Fuck yeah it is when you consider that these friends will lie down on a sword for each other. You can't make friends with everyone in a guild. It's next to impossible. The best you can hope for is that those who don't like each other simply behave, but it's not gonna happen. Then that leads to the most common downfall of a large guild. The cliques defend each other as if they were born from the same room. And when the cliques get unhappy, your guild is in serious goddamn trouble. Item went to the wrong person, 8 people leave the guild. Called the wrong person a noob, 5 people leave the guild. GM and officer have an argument, half your guild abandons ship. It was incredible how fast a guild could split in two. There were all kinds of groups, not just those interested in PvP or raiding or whatever, but even nationality groups who had nothing in common other than being born in the same country. Even they would have some dumbfounded sense of responsibility to each other, as if calling out a scrub who happened to be Swedish somehow was a slight against Sweden itself. It's almost impossible to counter such a situation. When you were after a roster of 50 or 60 people, you were almost held at gunpoint to recruit the guy you need, plus all the friends who come along with him. Even I took advantage of this. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that one. Why don't you give it a like so it shares around and we can make more of these. It was an interesting video for me. I actually have always been pushing for 40 Man to be back. I kind of changed my mind now. I don't think we should. It all seems pretty grim. Oh well, there you go. See you later, guys. Bye.